Right now, we have on the phone Senator Marco Rubio. Senator, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for the coverage on this.
My first question for you, as you continue to watch and see what exactly is happening with Dorian, what advice do you have for the people in our state?
I think just to heed the advice on the evacuations. You know, look, the evacuations this time were quite limited, and I think that's the credit to the local managers, the governor making a decision to trust on the local emergency managers. And frankly, the forecast from the Hurricane Center has been right on point in terms of the areas that need to be evacuated. You know, those zones that they pick are not picked randomly. They're not picked to inconvenience people. They are the places that they spend all year studying this stuff when they're not in the middle of hurricane season and projecting the areas that are likeliest to face a threat from storm surge. So the fact that we're not going to get a direct hit does not mean that we're not going to have storm surge and flooding and all kinds of issues. And I think people need to keep an eye on that and also know that these bands, I was stuck in one yesterday driving on the road down from Broward County, and one of these weather bands came through, and it was ugly for about 15 minutes. It was tough to drive in those conditions. So it's really a day for people up and down the east coast of Florida to sort of not be on the roads if you don't have to, and to evacuate and stay away until the all clear is given.
So, Senator Rubio, Heather Crawford here, and we thank you for joining us. As we talk about the First Coast in Northeast Florida, what's your biggest concern for folks here in our area? You
know, I remember a couple of years ago, but 2 or 3 years ago after Matthew, we had real flooding, and this storm is stronger than that. It's kind of a closer path than that one was. And a lot of that is not from the rainfall. People think, well, it rains all the time, it doesn't flood. This is storm surge. That's a different event, and you can quickly find yourself in a bad situation. So that remains our number one concern. And then obviously, you know, people out on the roads, invariably you're going to have accidents and things of this nature when these weather bands come through. So I think following the advice and the warnings given by local authorities, we're going to get through this here in the next 24 to 36 hours, and then we'll get back to normal.
And Senator Rubio, how are you working with our state leaders and those as well on the federal level to make sure that we have the proper resources during Dorian and also to deal with the aftermath of whatever it may bring our way?
Well, I just talked to the governor a couple hours ago again after talking to him last night. You know, our concern now is there's a lot of costs associated with preparing for the storm. They tell you something might be coming. You got to activate, you know, people working overtime. You got to activate some contracts. You got to move some things around. And if you don't spend enough money, then you don't meet the threshold for federal aid. So that's what we're glad we don't meet the threshold, because that means that we didn't get hit by a big storm. But this is a real cost, particularly in Northeast Florida, for example, where we still have Duval County and surrounding areas that have not been reimbursed for some of the costs from 3 years ago.
And
so we got to work on that.
I saw you tweeting about the Bahamas.
Yes.
You know, our thoughts and prayers are with everybody there as this storm just sat over the islands. Talk about relief efforts there in the latest situation after they experienced catastrophic Category 5 hurricane.
Well, we have a very close working relationship the United States does with Bahamian authorities. So the Coast Guard's already there now, trying to do some extractions of critically injured people that need to get care over at stateside. But I think moving beyond it, they're just waiting for to get the all clear so they can get in there and get a good assessment. The other thing that concerns me, I'm very happy to see a tremendous amount of outpouring relief efforts being offered up. But I don't want people getting on boats or airplanes and flying over there. I mean, we have to coordinate with the Bahamian government. They're very capable people, to make sure that we're sending them the right things, that it's being delivered to the right place, because the Bahamas is not an island. It is a chain of islands and separated from one another, so it's not enough to get stuff there. You got to get it to the right people and the right stuff. So there's going to be a lot of work to do, and we just want the storm to move already so that you know, our Department of Defense folks and our Coast Guard can get in there and start helping them and executing on our mutual aid contract, our mutual aid agreement that we have with the Bahamian authorities.
All right, Senator Marco Rubio, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to speak with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me.